Hi, I'm Howard. I'm co-founder of Future Ad Labs.
Howard, thanks for talking to us on the show this evening. You were one of the speakers on stage here at Growth Hackers, and we'll talk to you in a minute about Future Ad Labs, which is your current business, but you had a lot of very interesting information to share with the audience about growth hacking in your previous job with a gaming company.
Yeah, sure. So just a little bit about the gaming company I was with. I hooked up with some guys who were just about to launch a new gaming company. Had a really cool idea for this new soccer game. I'm like every guy, I'm into football. And we did really well. We grew it to, in the first year we launched it and grew it to 6 million users in the first year, and the company's gone on to be acquired since. So that's really some of the things that we really did to move that needle, and most of that growth was unpaid, growth hacks. So I talked about that tonight.
You did, and one of the things, you talked about a few elements of that. One of the things which resonated with me was you talked about using people's networks, the networks of the users you already have. People such as Spotify and people such as Dropbox have done that very effectively. But you made some interesting points. You said it's important if you're using people's networks, your customers and users' networks, that you do this in a way which is repeatable and sustainable. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, so I suppose, like a lot of businesses have traditionally grown through using people's networks, the likes of even back to real estate, etc. Key thing with growth hacking is to do it in an online way that is repeatable and kind of scalable and kind of works for you. So in the example I gave, what we did in our gaming company was we offered people the ability to play more games in the soccer game if they invited some of their friends in. So that was like the key currency.
And the results of that were spectacular.
So we grew from about 50,000 users up to about 500,000 users in the space of about a month. So that was pretty good.
And then you talked about shareable moments in that as well. That was your second sort of turning point in your growth, using Facebook Open Graph.
Yeah, that's right. And the whole point of this shareable moments is really baking in something to your product where when users use your product, they are automatically sharing it or bringing in new users for you. Some examples of people who have done that well would be I'm trying to think of an example I gave on stage now, but
Spotify.
Yeah, Spotify did it, of course. Spotify were doing it with Open Graph, and then of course we did it as well. We were one of the first people to come in and use Open Graph on Facebook once it came out of beta. And again, I showed you the other hockey stick growth. We went from about 500,000 users up to about 1.2 million users again in about 2 weeks, so that was pretty cool.
You can't argue with those figures, but on the other hand, there is anecdotal, at least, evidence, and from some people, my experience in particular, I know that I don't want my Facebook friends to know what silly movies I'm watching on Netflix. I don't want them to know what bad taste in music that I have. Is that a real factor, this struggle between maybe people's reticence, people's shyness, people's need for privacy, and those shareable moments that you want to build your growth hacking on?
Yeah, totally. That's a very good point. And what worked for us, which that growth I was talking about was almost 2 years ago now. What happened for us won't necessarily work for somebody who's doing it now. At the end of my talk, I talked about something called looking for the inefficiencies in any new market. That's how you get the big results in growth hacking. And for us, we saw that Spotify had worked really well with Open Graph, and it was a new thing that they brought out. We were one of the first people to do it. Other people weren't doing it. We got great results. Try and do Open Graph now, you get a fraction of the results that we did. So the key thing is not look at something that worked 2 years ago. Maybe see what is the fastest growing app right now or game right now. What are they doing different to make that growth, and copy that.
It's not a template. You've got to keep it fresh and open-minded.
No, totally. Otherwise, like any inefficient market, the people in early get the best results. Then they're the early adopters. Then you have the laggards start coming in, and at that point, it's not efficient anymore.